Well, the expanded field for Clemson has gotten them back to the college football playoff for the first time since 2020. But the team that they're going to be facing against on the road in DKR was just a play away from the national championship a year ago. And a lot of people, including myself, think that they would have matched up very well with the eventual national champions, the Michigan Wolverines. But at the end of the day, Steve Sarkisian and this Texas team, they've been on a mission all year. There's been one team that's given them fits, but for the most part, Texas has held up their end of the bargain. And they're back here as the 5 seed, the top ranked team that did not win their conference. And the Clemson Tigers got in simply because they won their conference. If you are new around here, I am Colin Baschnagel, your host here. We're going to be very active throughout the offseason, more than we ever have been, but I'm really active over on TikTok. Go and check that out. But certainly, if you think that this style is a good fit for you, and if you think that you could have conversations with me on some other platforms or in the comment section below, I would recommend subscribing, but certainly like the video if you like the video. Well, the Texas Longhorns get a home playoff game here, and they're going to be looking to right some wrongs against this Clemson defense. A Clemson defense that did not look amazing against SMU in the second half, allowed for the comeback, and the credit to them for pulling out a thriller, but it was to no credit of the late game defense by the Clemson Tigers. The Texas offense, though, definitely fluttered against Georgia in opportunity after opportunity in the first half that they had driven the field. They refused to finish possessions. And then the second half, it seemed like they couldn't sustain possessions, long drives going forward in that later portion of the game. It seemed like Georgia was almost dominating just the pace of play, especially in that second half. And that's something that Texas has to fix in this game. We are a far cry and a long time ago from the last time it seemed like Quinn Ewers took over a football game. I would argue the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State a year ago was probably the last time he truly took a football game over. You could point to the game against Michigan in the Big House, but I personally believe that that was just a game plan management type of matchup in which I think they could have on Saturday. But with the Clemson Tigers, you're talking about a team that clearly lacks the depth needed to be able to make a run in the college football playoff. So the thing that I think a lot of Clemson fans are hoping for is this one upset and all the eggs being in one basket. Both of these teams played on conference championship week, so that means that they have not had as long of a break as some of their counterparts in the college football playoff playing in the first round. There's only one other team that's playing in the first round that had the same circumstance as them, and that was Penn State, which we've already talked about. So the Clemson Tigers, having their depth tested, especially at the running back position and the wide receiver position, that is going to be something that I'm going to be very concerned with in this game. The Texas defense has been very dominant all year long. You're talking about the Jim Thorpe Award winner in Jahdae Barron. You're talking about a defensive line that's built differently than last year's defensive line, which their defense last year was built from the inside out. This year, it's the outside in. They're strong on the outside, and the way to Texas is to grind them through the middle. They're not weak in the middle by any stretch of the imagination, but that is the weakness of this Texas team. They have good edge rushers, good outside backers, great corners. It's going to be hard for Clemson to be able to test them. But they stylistically, with Phil Mafah running that football, actually match up a little bit better with Texas than they would some other teams, say, somebody with dominant defensive tackles, maybe a Georgia in this playoff field. So I definitely think that Clemson will find success early on, in particular in the first half, running the football. And you've also seen a lot of Cade Klubnik being able to use his legs on the ground as well. But if you go back a couple weeks ago against South Carolina, to a week before the conference championship game, you saw an offense flutter and a defense have to carry the day. That's going to be Clemson's path to victory in this game, because I think their offense is not going to be able to have a tremendously productive day. Maybe they won't be held to 14 like they were against South Carolina. They're going to have to produce a little more than that on the offensive side of the football. But on the defensive side of the football, that's what kept them in the game then. It's going to keep them in this game. If this Texas defense completely suffocates the offense, they can't establish the run game early. Texas is on the field for the most part. Texas is just going to kind of grind you to a halt on the offensive side of the football. And they're going to use it in a multiple, they're going to use it in multiple different ways. They're going to do it by using the perimeter run game a whole lot. They're going to tire out the interior of your defense. They showed the blueprint against Michigan, and they also tried to do that against Georgia, but Georgia is just too deep. But with the Clemson team, they're going to try to tire them out, test the depth of the Clemson Tigers. Then that's when they're going to start throwing in a little bit more play action pass, RPO type of situations. They're going to get that ball maybe rolling a little bit downfield as well in the early second quarter. And then by the second half, you're going to have Clemson worn down and be able to run the ball down their throat. And I think that's going to be Texas's plan. It seems to me like Kelvin Banks will also be good to go. He did not play in the SEC championship. That is definitely going to be big for protecting the passer of the football, Quinn Ewers. They're going to use Arch Manning in different situations as well, like they had done the last couple of weeks of the regular season and in the SEC championship game. This Texas team overall, to me, is just going to completely outmatch this Clemson team. Their path to victory for Clemson is to be able to run the football, possess the ball, even if it doesn't result in points, get a first down or two, give your defense a little bit of a breather, and be able to be suffocating on defense. And I think a lot of that will have to do with Texas playing into the hands of Clemson. Quinn Ewers has to take care of the football because simple. If he's got a 0 in the turnovers column, then that means Texas blows Clemson out. I think they blow them out with even one turnover, but certainly you can ensure it if you're Quinn Ewers by just taking care of the football. And I think he will do a relatively good job of that. I think that Texas will pull away in this game. I think that this game won't be quite close. I think the final score will end up being 37-17 with a little bit of garbage time there for Clemson. And I think that this Texas team is going to show that they are much better than Clemson, and they're also going to expose Clemson as the team that just doesn't belong in the field of 12 this year. That's the reality we live in. The Clemson Tigers got off to a red-hot start in the ACC championship game against SMU. Then in the second half got completely outplayed by SMU, got very fortunate with the win there, and it got them into the college football playoff. But this is not a Clemson team who, in the last month of the season, was playing their best football. They didn't even play their best football against SMU. And neither did Texas play their best football the last time we saw them. But this Texas team, at their worst, is much better than what we've seen from the Clemson team lately. I am not a buyer that Clemson can even keep this game close. I think that this is the biggest lopsided victory of the weekend. If you Clemson fans hate about it, comment down below what you think. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next video.